Fran Bow, the point-and-click horror game with immense psychological depth and a story with incredible writing from both a fictional and realistic perspective. Released on August 27th, 2015, the game is having its 10th anniversary on this exact day. To this special occasion, I am making this, let's call it a documentary, with the complete story, concept and explanations, and also a few ways of interpretation of the game itself at the end. But of course we will start from the start. Who exactly is Fran Bow? Fran Bow Dagenhart is a girl from the family of Martin Bow and Lucia Dagenhart. When the game starts, she is 10 years old, born on December 17th, 1934. Actually, it's not far until her 11th birthday. She also has a cat, Mr. Midnight, a black cat with shiny yellow eyes. She is also in a good bond with her aunt, Grace Dagenhart, Lucia's twin sister. Fran is a curious and smart girl, aware of her surroundings and social. She interacts very politely with everyone who treats her good, almost shy. But this can be interpreted as a way of being cautious too, because she can also sense danger pretty well but often let her curiosity get the better of her. But one thing sticks out when it comes to getting to know Fran. She loves animals more than anything, especially her cat, Mr. Midnight. Now, out of all this, you would expect a mostly extroverted girl, living a good life, having her friends, family and social bonds. But when we start her adventure, she is living in a mental asylum with an immense patient record, alone and in a rather dark world, despite having other children to talk to. No family, no Mr. Midnight, and not in her own home. So of course we have to ask, what happened? Right before the start, we get an introduction sequence of Fran and her family, and unfortunately also the reason why she was brought to the asylum. When hearing a scream out of her parents' room, 9-year-old Fran rushed into their room after seeing a shady figure outside of her window. What she saw then was nothing but a cruel, brutal and incomprehensible murder scene. Her parents were not only killed, but also dismembered, laying on the ground. Fran, completely panicking and crying, fled out of her house into the forest, together with Mr. Midnight, where she passed out. Mr. Midnight looked at Fran and ran away. After an unknown time span, somebody carried Fran out of the forest to the Oswald Asylum, where she was allegedly treated and taken care of ever since. Of course, her aunt Grace Dagenhart is also looking out for her, since she is also the last person left to hang on to. Fran is living in the asylum ever since and also has good social links to the other children in the facility. Of course, Fran has a huge trauma from the death of her parents. But what does the Oswald Asylum say about her condition and person? How does her patient record look like that is hanging over her bed at the start? Let's take a look. Fran Bow's patient record. When we look at the board in her room, which is just an open space with a direct way to the nurse, but let's forget about this for now. We see that the Oswald Asylum knows about the Bow Dagenhart murder incident. They have everything you need to know about the patient. The personal data, the clinical diagnosis, the family tragedy mentioned. You could be wondering how they know about it when they found the girl in the woods, but it's pretty clear that she is there for some time already when starting her adventure. So she probably told the therapist, Dr. Dearn, everything she knows. We can also see that when we put together a few puzzle pieces. The record is documented on July 25th, 1944, which should be a few months old since the game starts shortly before Fran's birthday, which is on December 17th. In Chapter 4, we also learn that Fran's parents were killed when she was 9, so a year ago or longer. So she's being treated by the Oswald Asylum for the same time by now. What's also interesting is the treatment section in the document. Dr. Marcel Dearn has tried different medications and all have been cancelled because of side effects. Which is not correct, because the nurse assigned us a bottle of a medicine called Duotine. But before we get to the Duotine and its problem, we have a second document hidden in the nurse's desk, which seems like a pretty recent patient behavior description. That one is not particularly important for the story, but it is a pretty good depiction of her state and of how worn out she is, especially when you look back to how I described her before. cheerful, curious, smart, and social. The patient has been sleeping almost all the time. She only wakes up to drink water, but I don't think she remembers that. After drinking, she goes to sleep again. She hasn't been social for 3 days now. Some kids have come around and asked about her and when she would come out and play. Little side note, yes, nursing documentations are always in such short sentences, and yes, nurse handwriting does look like this. So she has been sleeping a lot up until we accompany her on her adventure. We can only speculate why, but trying and switching up that many psych medications is extremely tiring, especially for a malnourished 10-year-old girl. But it seems like they found a medication after all, so why don't we take a look at the medicine called Duotine? The Duotine. The Duotine pills Fran gets from the nurse's desk will be the most important element when it comes to the whole story. Getting out of the asylum, finding Mr. Midnight, and finding out what this is all about in the first place. Taking these red pills let Fran Bow space out in a hallucinatory state, the most disturbing, bloody, and traumatizing hallucinatory state to ever go through. She can see corpses of the people being in the same room as her, bloody traces, ominous shades which not only threaten Fran Bow but also resemble the traumatizing experiences of the other childs in the asylum and exactly replicate the abuse they went through. What are these pills and what are these hallucinations? This can't be part of the treatment. While searching and sneaking her way through the asylum, one of the kids, Fillmore, is locking Fran into the office, so she has to find another way out because, of course, it means huge trouble if they find her here. So she takes the vent in the room to escape, which was opened by a mysterious hand. The ventilation system guides her to the asylum basement where some storage boxes were placed. When looking into the storage boxes, Fran spots more Duotine bottles and both red and yellow pills. So there are 2 variants, nothing suspicious so far. But there is a note. Of course, Fran is too curious to not look at it. The patient 2506200915000 is our current target. Target response is positive. Now expanding the triggered gland. Ectoplomatine dose up to 1700 mcg. Change the container so it looks like an improved variant of Duotine. What? The number of this note matches perfectly with Fran's patient record, so the swapped out Duotine is targeted to Fran Bow Dagenhart. The heads of the Oswald Asylum, allegedly her therapist Dr. Dearn, and everyone involved, are prescribing the girl an unapproved and possibly dangerous variant of the Duotine pills. But why? Whatever the reason, after having a dream of her cat and best friend Mr. Midnight, she wanted to escape the asylum anyways to find him, but this note is just more of a reasoning to get out of here as soon as possible. The asylum escape. Before Fillmore was locking her into the office and the basement incident with the Duotine, Fran finds herself in the open asylum rooms, the cafeteria, and an employee that is, let's say, a little bit intrusive, harassing, implying that she gets the key to the room if she gives the man a kiss. I just want to say that we have a victim of sexual abuse as the patient in this asylum. Adelia Fudgens, who was almost killed by the unknown person she was abused by. But luckily, Dr. Dearn is taking good care of the girl. I cannot imagine that none of the children in the asylum have been taken advantage of by some of the people working there at this point, or even got their state worsened by them. Maybe one more reason for the need of an actual and morally responsible asylum. But back to the escape. When you search your way through the building with the Duotine 2, some might notice signs of the asylum being not fine at all. Going through the asylum with a more cautious eye, and especially with the pills, things are getting weirder and weirder. Some of the rooms do not look like a psych ward, but like an imprisonment after experimenting on humans. Children are severely damaged not only mentally but physically too. Locked in cold, rocky and empty rooms. In a bad state, and I mean a bad state. Like these 2 girls with head scars and a blood writing that says Itward. Shadows replicating the things done to the victims. Whispering threats and making the asylum a living nightmare. But also a Mr. Midnight plush on a unicycle and a funny skeleton man with a top hat, apparently showing Fran the way out. And these 2 are the reason why she is able to escape the asylum one way or another by getting through the big yellow door after entering a code. Of course, this is raising attention. So while she continues to follow the Mr. Midnight plush after the alarm of the facility was going off, she can shake off the guards by going through the maze and the sewer system. She can finally breathe. But before we continue with Fran Bow's journey, I think we have a little bit of explaining to do. Because the things coming now and also things that already occurred are all tied to a phenomenon called the 5 realms of essential existence. This will be a big chapter, if not the biggest. The concept of word building is coming up a lot in Fran's mission to find her best friend. They are a depiction of different worlds, perceptions, or realities in the same place. Where did the phenomenon occur so far? Every time Fran took the pills. Where does it occur when going on? The whole time. But to understand the whole concept better, we have to talk about what the 5 realities are, regardless of Fran's current knowledge and her journey. The 5 realities, or otherwise known as the 5 realms of essential existence, are building the whole universe of Fran Bow. I will work with the diary of Dr. Leon Castillo, a former employee of the Oswald Asylum. Fran gets his diary as a present later, and this diary is the best explanation and greatest evidence in the human world we have of the 5 realities. The first and 5th reality. The first reality is called Pramiv or Primiv. It is inhabited by the Valukas and their king, the Great Valukas. This place is the beginning of all life, a realm of light. They are also a result of the purification of Kamalas, the inhabitants of the 5th reality. I will put both of these two together here because it makes the most sense with the whole concept of the realms. I'll explain reality 2, 3 and 4 afterwards. The 5th reality is the realm of darkness, Obscura, which is ruled by Mother Mabuka and her son Remor. Both being an important part of the late state of Fran Bow's journey, this realm is the opposite of Primiv. Death, pain and weakness are longed for in this place. The 5th reality is inhabited by many creatures such as the Kamalas and Lucifers, which are colored in a light white in every reality except for the 5th, where they have a fiery and red look and are dangerous to touch. The reason why I put both of them together, even though they are the 1st and 5th reality, is because these realms are the exact opposite. Life and death, light and darkness. Kamala and Valukas are also Finnish words for pretty much horrible and having light. But what do they have to do with each other? In Leon Castillo's diary is more information about the Kamalas and their only weakness, water. According to Castillo, if you pour water over a Kamala, they get purified and ending up in a metamorphosis, being turned into a Valukas and thus a child of light. After purification, they travel to Ithersta, where they belong according to Castillo's diary entries. The world of Ithersta. The 2nd reality is a special place. I originally wanted to talk about Ithersta in its own chapter, but it is also its own reality and should not be separated from the explanation of the 5 realms of essential existence. So I will talk about the world itself here and Fran's journey through Ithersta later. It deserves to be speaked about as much as possible. As the reality of life, ruled by King Zia, Ithersta is the most nature-driven world, inhabited by roots and insects. Every person in Ithersta seems to be friendly, respectful and patient, but also cautious and aware. It also has its own language with 28 symbols for letters, the language being Eternish, and also their own number system with 53 numbers, which are actually learnable by reading Castillo's diary and a little logic. Being all nature and having golden coins as their only currency, Ithersta does not have electricity or automatic systems. Everything is working with mechanisms based on gears, being manually powered contraptions. The most impressive and also most important trait of this reality is, of course, the clock. Maintained by clockmaker Cogwind, the 2nd reality shows that time is an infinitely layered reality. Time is not really existing as the constant we or probably every other reality knows it. Ithersta works with seasons, and so does the Great Clock. You can switch the season on it anytime you want to get to places. For example, the bar is not open in certain days, but in certain seasons.
winter, spring, summer, and autumn are adjustable zones. This way you don't have to wait for something to be accessible, you just make it accessible. Everything and everyone in Ithersta is flowing and functioning with the respective season. This could also be a reason why this whole reality is bound to a single lifestyle and worldview. Depicted as the realm dedicated to the pursuit of knowledge, it believes that an individual's journey towards wisdom grants them power and freedom. Remember when I said that Valukas are traveling to the second reality, to Ithersta, after being purified? Maybe this worldview and lifestyle has something to do with it. So the Valukas can learn about the light of life after being in the shadows and in pain for so long. Which is interesting because normally no other species would be able to enter Ithersta without some trick or special ability. Not even humans, because the human world itself is the third reality. Pandora, the human world. Yes, it is that simple. The world we are living in, the world Fran Bow, her family, and every human she knows is living in, marks the third reality. Earth, Mars, Jupiter, and so on. This world, as you might know, is based on consciousness and willpower. The name Pandora origins from the legend of Pandora's box. The myth says opening Pandora's box caused the release of all human pain, misfortune, loss of innocence, but also hope. This is why our world is called Pandora. It also is the third reality, while the first brings light and the fifth depicts darkness. We are in the exact center of this. Pandora is being influenced by both good and evil, light and darkness. And I think this is everything that needs to be said about our world. We know it and we love and hate it. We think the world is beautiful and ugly at the same time, whereas the fourth reality is not nearly as simple as the third. I would rather say it's the most complicated. Scenercity. The fourth reality, otherwise known as the reality of death and transformation, is putting together many puzzle pieces and gives us connections never been there before. Castillo named this one Scenercity in his diary. Not only is this the reality of death, but also the one of guardians of the children. Let me explain, I have to go a bit deeper for this. Tormented children are a thing and always will be, even if we wish it wouldn't. In another place, in the same universe of the third world, there is a little girl. Different than Fran, but also tormented and unlucky in life. Her name? Little Misfortune. This girl is going through a hard life and is forced to play a game she cannot win and will most likely make her end up dead. What does the fourth reality have to do with this? In the same situation, Misfortune is being visited and watched by a fox named Benjamin. He is trying to help Misfortune and get her back safe. He protects her and is the only one who can stop this game so many children fell victim of already. Misfortune ends up dying in another reality, but not in the one her consciousness was, where Benjamin was able to protect her and give her the happiness she deserved for so long. Why am I telling you all this? Well, besides the fox, there are two more guardians important and irreplaceable to Fran. A cat with yellow eyes and fur, black as night, and a skeleton with a top hat. Both being born in the fourth reality and from the origin of death. Both accompanying Fran to reach her goals and bring her happiness. And all of this with the help of a special sixth realm. The Ultra Reality. The Ultra Reality is a sixth realm that has nothing to do with the concept of the five realities, but is located between the five realms of essential existence. This reality has elements of all the five existing combined and is often used as a bridge or a gateway between them. Now, how can you enter the Ultra Reality as a human? The answer to this is the Duotine. The exact same falsely prescripted Duotine pills Fran is taking is giving her access to the Ultra Reality, which is also answering the question of what these hallucinations are. That's why she's seeing both Kamalas and Valukas and the skeleton with the top hat. But how is the Oswald Asylum in knowledge of the Ultra Reality? And why is Fran Bow targeted for this? After this huge detour, we have to continue Fran's journey now, and I'm sure that we will now understand way better what is happening, and we will also have these questions answered, sooner or later. Clara and Mia Buhalmet. After successfully escaping the asylum, Fran encounters two creatures. Antonio the Greatest, a giant ant from Ithersta, and a pinecone family, inhabitants of the third reality, and also a talking rat, helping her to track down Mr. Midnight. She has been told by them that Mr. Midnight was seen inside the well, so she opens the magical door, enters it, and falls down. After an unknown amount of time passed, Fran wakes up in a cat bed with a head looking exactly like Mr. Midnight. She has been prepped to a house cat with a note written by the ones who did it. "Welcome home, beautiful kitten. We hope you like your new bed. Be nice and eat your food. Love, Clara and Mia." Fran takes off the hat and searches her way through the house, which is decorated pretty fancy and ladylike, but Clara and Mia are nowhere to find. Looking around, it becomes pretty clear that Clara and Mia are twin sisters. There are pictures of them hanging in the apartment, and not too subtle. These two are Siamese twins. This is a phenomenon also existing in real life, where children are merged together on some body parts or one big body part when they are born, essentially sharing two brains in most cases, but one body. So the twins prepped Fran as a house cat. But how do they know how Mr. Midnight looked and replicated the hat in a way that it looks exactly like him? When going upstairs to the attic, it gives a both creepy but also kinda relieving feeling. She's finding a light switch, looking around, and finds many things. But the most important thing in the attic is a blanket over a big golden cage. And in this cage is Mr. Midnight, alive and well, able to talk to Fran and incredibly happy to see his best friend. They finally did it. The pursuit, the suffering from the pills and the effort, everything was worth it. But as beautiful of a reunion this is, they still have to get Mr. Midnight out of the cage and themselves out of the well and back home. The twins could appear at any moment, and this will surely not mean any good. Fran is going down the stairs and Clara and Mia are already sitting there, not happy and with a bit of an unsettling introduction, but everything goes fine. And the twin already have a task for Fran. She has to mix up a recipe to separate the twins, because according to them, they are not born like this, which is also proven quickly when looking at the wall. Clara and Mia as kids, not sewn together and living as normal twins. They tell her that someone did sew them together to punish them, thinking it was an angel at first, so Fran has to get ingredients and perform a spell to separate them. Only then, Clara and Mia are willing to free Mr. Midnight from the cage. Of course, Fran accepts. She gets the paper with the ingredients needed and the spell to perform. Fran searches everything together, but is noticing something while searching through the apartment. A not very old corpse of a girl is laying on the ground, dismembered and just existing there. You could already figure out before that something is not right, but this one strikes her as extremely odd, until a toad in front of the house is warning her. This spell is not to use, unless Fran wants to get killed and never get home. The corpse in the apartment has trusted the girls and used the exact same spell. Fran Bow decides to trust him, is getting an alternative recipe and collects all necessary ingredients with the help of a few tricks with Duotine, a writing machine, and the friendly toad. Fran is preparing the mixture and Clara and Mia thankfully do not suspect a thing. She says the spell, pours the mix over them when it strikes the twins that Fran has spoken out the wrong spell. But it was too late then. Clara and Mia just turned into ashes. They died and will no longer be any problem for Fran or Mr. Midnight. The ashes also uncover a key. Fran has to push aside what just happened and focus on freeing her cat, but the key doesn't fit. So there's only one choice left. See where the key fits. And it does fit perfectly inside the keyhole of the mirror in the twins' bedroom. And inside this mirror is another key. This must be the key for Mr. Midnight's cage. But before she goes up to the attic, Fran has to look at the stuff in the mirror. The information given there is invaluable, to say the least. First thing catching the eye is a picture of the girls with huge sewing scars. One right in the middle of their bodies, so they did get sewn together. Not only that, but they also have scars on their head, which is often resembling a lobotomy. Wait, A lobotomy? Did they have something to do with the Oswald asylum? Were the twin girls in the locked room at the beginning Clara and Mia after procedure? Let's continue searching through the mirror. They also left a letter. Sister promise. We, Clara and Mia Buhalmet, promise to revenge the unfair destiny Itward decided for us. With blood and tears we promise that we will kill him and bring our bodies back. We won't stand this any longer. Even though we are sisters, we hate each other and we will always hate each other. Nothing will ever change that. But now, with our bodies attached to each other, we can't complete our task. The strongest will live forever, and the weakest will die. This one pretty much settles it. When Fran searched her way through the asylum, one of the rooms had a twin sister pair inside and the word Itward was written down with blood. So the twins were indeed once assigned to the Oswald asylum. Was Oswald responsible for the two being sued together? Two more things are catching the eye in this mirror. A picture of the twins' mother with "Mother must die" written on it. And the last thing Fran notices are two complete skeletons, both with two arms different than the soon-together sisters, probably resembling Clara and Mia in another reality since they most likely died already way before the spell. Let's keep this huge amount of information in mind, but most importantly, Fran finally has to get Mr. Midnight out of the cage. She does exactly this and they eventually escape this hell of an apartment, get out of the well and focus on the way back home. Once they can escape and go on, the next problem occurs. They have to cross a bridge, not a very stable one, and once Fran tries to walk over, it breaks. Mr. Midnight is jumping down to not let her be alone again, but luckily, Fran survives and finds herself in the probably most beautiful place ever. Ithersta, the second reality. We already talked about Ithersta very detailed, so we can confidently go with Fran's journey here. When waking up, Fran realizes that she cannot move. Also, the Duotine is not to find. Maybe it is better this way, especially after Fran and Mr. Midnight are together again, so it doesn't seem to be needed anymore. After a few seconds, the situation gets clear. She is a tree. As this fact strikes her, she gets invaded by Itherstians, which see her as hostile as nobody normally enters Ithersta besides Valokas. They talk to her, but of course in their language, so they don't understand Fran and Fran does not understand them. Luckily, the Roots see what the situation is about even without being able to understand what Fran Bow is saying, pack her up in a boat and bring her to the king of Ithersta. King Zia, who can also speak the human language and make Fran understand the Itherstian language without problems. Fran explains that she just fell into this reality and wants to go back home with her friend Mr. Midnight. Itherstians are incredibly friendly and empathetic beings, so the king understands her situation. But before Fran can do anything, she has to be at least able to have arms and legs again, since she is just a tree. So she will be brought to one of the mightiest beings in Ithersta and also the doctor, Palontras, the fluffy, flying and friendly creature. Palontras brings her to a waterfall of pink water, which has a healing and purifying ability. This water apparently came in contact with the blood of the fallen great Valokas, the king of the first reality, and thus the world of light. This way Fran gets grown legs and arms. She is still a tree, but looks more like an Itherstian and can do anything she could do as a human too. An adorable tree. She is also being told that in order to become human again and leave Ithersta to get back home, she has to get to the Great Wizard, who is to find in Mount Kotrem. What we already learned, and what she will learn very soon too, is that nobody in Ithersta has to wait for winter or any other season. Fran starts exploring Ithersta and gets to know a lot of friendly people, roots and insects. But one is special and can also be a huge help. Cogwind the Clockmaker is giving Fran Bow a remote clock after she explains her situation, which she can always use to get over obstacles, find hidden places like Mount Kotrem, and also for general exploration uses. Different than the third world, everyone in Ithersta seems to be understanding, empathetic. It's almost utopian. She plays tic-tac-toe with a snail, sneaks herself in a bar and speaks with a drunk bee, gets the mountain back together with his wife, the mountaintop, reads useful Itherstian trivia in the library and also sees Valokas casually walking around the land. But she also encounters Kamalas, who play with her, traumatize her. One where the Kamalas let Fran's mother appear and speak, playing with her. One blaming Fran for what she did to Clara and Mia and showing their corpses even though she did not know what she's doing and telling her to end herself. And the worst one where another version of Fran sits on Zia's throne, blames Fran Bow for the murder on her parents and stabs another version of Mr. Midnight. Crying a lot and trying to overcome all this, Fran is having mental support by her friends, so she eventually gets better. But the positive aspects are definitely the more overwhelming ones. She is living in a world where everyone protects everyone, where a doctor can cure any illness and where she can also exist just as a tree and live a peaceful life. The Kamalas are not even supposed to be in Ithersta. Both King Zia and the Great Wizard know that because of the breakthrough from Fran, the bridge to Ithersta opened and everybody can enter now. This is also one reason why Fran has to leave for the time being until everything is settled. Palontras is fighting Kamalas in the meantime and gets hurt, but luckily he is completely fine and can always cure himself with the pink water, even though Fran is still worried when seeing him like that. With the help of the clock and the friendly Itherstian people, she finds the Great Wizard in Mount Kotrem and he can indeed help her to get human and open the portal to get back to her world. She has to collect a few things, which gives her even more of an opportunity to explore the beauty of the second reality. Ithersta is slowly growing on her, enjoying the precious nature and easy lifestyle of the people, interacting with people for help, sneaking her way into the bar without anyone being mad about it, going fishing and riding the boat. Just having a great time overall besides the rather small inconveniences. It's a completely different world than hers. Friendly, warm, peaceful, and still aware of its security. Ithersta looks like the perfect place to live. And the best thing? She could do all this with her best friend Mr. Midnight. This will definitely not be the last time being in this reality. Fran Bow eventually gets every ingredient needed and after one powerful spell, she's human again. But now, it's time to go. Ithersta will always be Fran Bow's most precious memory and maybe she will come back if she's allowed to. With the help of King Zia, the Great Wizard, and Palontras, the portal opens and Fran enters it. Ithersta, the idyllic second reality and probably with the most lovingly people Fran has ever met. Depicted as the realm dedicated to the pursuit of knowledge, it believes that an individual's journey towards wisdom grants them power and freedom. This is also one of the reasons why they have to let Fran go and say that she is not yet ready, besides the fact that this is the only way to save Ithersta from the Kamalas. She has to find out the truth before settling in a more peaceful life. So she gets out of Ithersta and back to her world, but with a deep wish to get back there one day. She enters the door on the other side of the broken bridge and the first thing she sees is the Duotine bottle, attached to a rope, escaping. Fran doesn't know this trick yet, so she follows the bottle and gets trapped in a net, but luckily she can free herself with the knife she has in her bag. And this is where Fran finally finds out about the Guardian from the fourth reality. The person who followed Fran's every step, and also the person accused of sewing the twins together. Itward. A skeleton with a top hat, born in the fourth reality as a guardian for tormented children. So this is the person Fran so often saw mentioned or depicted in some way. He introduces himself friendly and also expresses his apologies for the trick of the Duotine, but there was no other way he could get to her. He explains to Fran that he always had an eye out for her. In the asylum, when opening the vent to get out of the office, in Clara and Mia's house, and even in Ithersta, because this is his task, protecting children. He claims that he also tried to protect Clara and Mia, but they were hostile towards him and thus he failed. He was always there, even reading bedtime stories for Fran. He does not want Fran to get hurt or worse. And he wants to help her now too, to get back home. Itward also constructed something to move between the realities. The Itward flying machine. But before they enter and also while being in the machine, he tells Fran more about the 5 realities and also about the ultra reality, because this flying machine is exactly for traveling between all of them. Fran is quickly getting what Itward is telling her and also understands that she is entering the ultra reality every time she takes the pills, that these are not hallucinations. After a small preparation, it is finally time to get home, so they get to the flying machine. Fran has to maintain some structures of the ship while Itward is on the cockpit or the pedals, so she takes care of the energy of the ship. What strikes her odd is the fact that Itward, when switching to the ultra reality, is not a skeleton but a clown. But she doesn't let it get to herself that much and she continues to kill some time in the ship. One room is decorated with a shadow theater. Of course, Fran is too curious to not look what's inside it. It's the story about Clara and Mia. Itward wanted to give them a chance, to protect them. But Clara and Mia were blind and blamed him for everything bad, even though they blamed their twin the most. And this has nothing to do with Itward. Out of the hatred, instead of killing Itward, the twins killed each other. And even in death, they could not stop to blame each other for their pure existence and their insanity. Itward wanted to help them because the world punished them by sewing them together. So he was giving the twins a chance. Until the day a black cat goes missing and the door to the well opens. The day Fran arrived and accidentally killed the twins even in their reality. This was the deadline Itward gave them to try and change, to make the best out of their situation. But they never did, and carried that hatred until their very end. Itward can be trusted. They tried to protect them and speak to them, but without success. After watching the show and looking around the ship, Itward comes to her with a favor. A creepy bunny is in the ship, and Fran has to look what it is and if it is really scary. When approaching the plushie, Itward suddenly grabs Mr. Midnight, grimaced with an evil expression and locks Fran Bow into the room. What's this supposed to mean? Why is he doing that? Now would be the perfect situation to doubt anything trusted before. Was Itward a villain all along and Clara and Mia were right? Unfortunately, Fran has no time to find out. She has to get out of there and Mr. Midnight back. She also encounters another cruel prank by the Kamalas, her parents on the top of the ship, not saying anything, and suddenly being sliced to pieces. Fran tries to shake it off and continues her mission. After solving it and getting back to the main corridors of the ship, Fran is entering a dark room, not being able to see anything until she finds the light switch and...
Surprise, Fran! Happy birthday!
Thankfully, all this was just a setup by Itward and Mr. Midnight to make Fran Bow a surprise party, because she is turning 11 years old today. Itward also apologizes for the setup, but has prepared a present and even a cake. The present looks like the shape of a Mr. Midnight plushie. A little spark of light in the girl's life, which unfortunately doesn't stay long because the ship is attacked by Kamalas. Itward takes care of the ship control and Fran tries to get rid of the shadowy creature. Since it's known that the Kamala's weakness is water, Fran takes advantage of the faucet on the top of the ship and eventually drives the Kamala away. But it's too late. The ship has lost control and is currently losing height, and crashes with Fran, Itward and Mr. Midnight in it, all three of them hugging each other. But even though the odds were extremely low and the crash looked fatal, Fran Bow manages to wake up after an unknown amount of time passed. A human experiment? Somehow, Fran survived the crash from the Itward flying machine and even landed in the street she's living. Itward actually made it. She's almost home, just a few blocks away. At this point, the girl is pretty tired and Fran just wants to go home. She wants her safe space. She wants to spend time with the family she has left and live a normal life. But once she arrived, things are getting even more confusing. She is standing right before her house. It's so close, but she doesn't have a key. She searches her way around the house and looks even under the doormat, but nothing. When lifting the houseplants, she finds a note. I took the key. Fran? But she didn't. Or she can't remember, but there's no key whatsoever. So they have to find a solution. Mr. Midnight is able to get through the window in the upper levels and open the door from inside, so he enters the house without issues. But Mr. Midnight doesn't open the door. There is no response even after reaching out to him. Did something happen? Is Mr. Midnight okay? Unfortunately for Fran Bow, she doesn't even have time to wait because a car arrives right before the house. It's Dr. Deern, her therapist from the Oswald Asylum. Fran is scared that he might take her back to the asylum, but this is the direct opposite of Deern's actual plan. He insists that Fran absolutely has to get into the car. She refuses first, but gives in when she sees how serious he is. Fran states that Deern is taking her away from Mr. Midnight, her cat, and that he is right there in the house. The doctor's response is that Mr. Midnight was long gone. But Fran spoke with him, went to Ithersta with him, and had all the adventures with him? He can't be dead. Leaving Mr. Midnight behind and sitting in Dr. Deern's car, he starts to explain. He left the Oswald Asylum, and he will definitely not bring Fran back there because everything waiting for her there would be torture. Referring to the papers in front of her, Dr. Deern further tells Fran that he found out things that are absolutely unacceptable. But first, she has to look at the letters. Apparently, the Oswald Asylum itself found Fran Bow in the woods after her parents' death, and what they did was not just treating her. They declared Fran dead for the public. Dear Gladys, let the newspaper know about Fran Bow. She was found in the woods, frozen to death. She ran away from home after finding about her parents' murder. And the actual newspaper cutout? Martin and Lucia Bow Dagenhart were found early this week brutally murdered in their residence on Hay Street. The investigating police officer Mark Kohuma said, "It seems that the bodies were perfectly sliced, which would cause a quick, instantaneous death. Also, there were no signs of a struggle in the house, so the victims must have been caught completely by surprise and were unable to fight back." The police interrogated Grace Dagenhart, Lucia's twin sister, but the police didn't find any useful information. The youngest in the family, Fran Bow, was found in the woods one day after her parents' murder. She froze to death. But obviously she is not dead. Fran is alive and well. Dr. Deern continues and says that the only one responsible for this fake death notice is Dr. Oswald Harrison himself, the founder of the Oswald Asylum. They found Fran in the woods, took her into the asylum, and let the public think that she died, because it's fitting perfectly with the murder of her parents. The reason for the whole thing? Human experimentation. This is also what the letter in the asylum basement said. Fran Bow was indeed the target of an experiment by dosing her the wrong variant of Duotine. They took her to the asylum, faked her death for the public, and let even the nurses be involved in it, Gladys being the nurse from the beginning. Just and only to have green light to perform experiments on Fran Bow without anyone raising suspicion. She was being given non-approved Duotine and also too high of a dosage, so the effects were too strong and they broke the bridge between the conscious and the subconscious. Fran then explains what she sees and feels when taking the medicine, the places she visited and the people she met. Itward and Palontras mentioned specifically, and this is also the first time she expresses her wish to stay in Ithersta. This place was special for Fran Bow. Dr. Deern first doesn't believe her and says that Fran apparently lived in a fairy tale, that these people are not real, until Fran Bow tells the story of Clara and Mia and what she went through in the well. Remember when we saw the proof of the possibility that Clara and Mia once were patients of the Oswald Asylum? Dr. Deern says that they were indeed once assigned with the Oswald Asylum, and that they were victims of the experiments of Dr. Oswald Harrison. He sued them together to look how their DNA would react. Of course it did nothing, because what he did is not genetic manipulation, it's insane physical damage to the body, nothing more. The twins died a few months after the experiment and their dead bodies were then thrown into a well. The exact same well where Fran Bow landed when getting Mr. Midnight back and meeting Clara and Mia for the first time. Apparently Dr. Deern just found out about all these things and now wants answers himself. That's why he searched for Fran Bow and reached out to her, to tell her the truth and to ask her for help. He wants to find evidence on who actually killed Fran's parents and punish them. And for this, he needs to open the coffins. Yes, Dr. Deere needs to commit grave desecration. But not only are these the coffins of Martin and Lucia Bow Dagenhart, but also of Fran herself. Of course they had to make it believable, so they also organized a funeral for Fran too. But the alive and well Fran is standing right before it. They get some shovels and start digging. Getting to the graves, they open one after another. The first is her mother's, the second her father's. No signs of evidence so far. The morticians did a pretty good job in sewing the parents together too. Everything looks clean. And then they open Fran's coffin, where they find the skeleton of a cat with black fur and yellow eyes. So Mr. Midnight is dead? This has to be another cat. Dr. Deere is interrupting the thought process and confusion of Fran and is asking if there is any evidence. But with no success, just a depressing sight and an even more sad realization. Right when they want to go back, a familiar face appears. The Kamala who is tormenting Fran Bow from the start and also was in her window when her parents were killed. Rammer, the son of the Mother of Darkness, Mabuka. He makes Dr. Deere vanish into darkness and also takes Fran Bow away from her home. Into the fifth reality, Obscura. The ending we know. Waking up in her own bed, Fran gets greeted by Aunt Grace. Finally, a beloved face. But seconds after, she also realizes that she is chained on her bed. Why did Grace chain her niece to the bed? Grace opens her speech by refusing to give Fran a hug. How lovely. She then continues by starting to blame Mr. Midnight for the murder of Fran's parents, without any evidence or reason. Because, saying this herself, she needs someone to blame for this cruel act, and then leaves with Fran being stuck to her bed. Fran needs a way out, immediately. She remembers what Clockmaker Cogwin said to her. Time is a layered reality, hoping that another Fran from another reality is in this exact same room and able to save her. And it actually happens after just a bit of waiting. She meets another Fran, with a different dress but with a similar medical history, since she's also a patient of the Oswald Asylum. The biggest difference is that the Fran Bow of this reality doesn't have a cat, but what she has is a collection of keys. She picks the fitting key and releases Fran from her chains. The Fran Bow from the other reality is also mentioning Itward and Palontras and also knows about the 5 realities. A man called Leon told her about it, so she also knows Leon Castillo, who wrote the diary about the Kamalas and Valukas and the 5 realities. Unfortunately, she can't say more. Nurse Gladys picks her up to see the doctor and Fran enters her own room again. Now freed, she can take a look around. She's clearly not in her own reality. The door Grace closed vanished, and when looking out she sees a talking tree being attacked by a Kamala. After taking a look into her wardrobe and the picture of her and her friend Alice, she decides that it's time to finish the mission. With the help of the Mr. Midnight plushie she got from Itward as a birthday present, she can open the door frame and get out of the room. Her task now is to confront Rammer and Aunt Grace, get out of here and finally home to see Mr. Midnight, Palontras and Itward again. Now entering a rather obscure area with 5 doors to open, Fran is solving every task and learns with every little progress where she actually is. She has been brought to the 5th reality of darkness. When Fran finished solving every task and opening the last door, she faces the Mother of Darkness herself, Mabuka. Fran confronts her with the assumption that Rammer himself killed Lucia and Martin Bow Dagenhart. Mabuka, curious of the reasoning, lets Fran pass on to the next area where she will soon find out the truth and face Rammer, hopefully for the last time. She enters the realm and encounters a rather comedic scenario where creatures from the 5th reality are waiting for their appointment at the doctor. Every creature with their own specific complaint, but nothing too bad. She tries to sneak her way through by swapping tickets to be the next in line. After interacting with the patients and successfully finding a way, she enters the next room and gets greeted by Rammer immediately. He gets confronted by Fran without hesitation, asked why he killed her parents, because he was the one found in front of Fran's window. Rammer points out that Fran trusts her eyes too much, that the human body is fragile and easy to corrupt, and then brings her into a scenario that, according to him, shows what really happened. A brutal scene with the events of the night her parents died, and Fran Bow herself is holding the knife, stabbing into her parents' corpses, and Remmer appearing and asking Fran who did it and what she sees. He played with her and wanted to show her that nobody but Fran herself killed them. Of course, Fran doesn't believe a single word and finally wants to end this after waking up. Now she comes to the final chapter of her journey. When entering the room behind her, Dr. Deeren is tied to an electric chair. She releases him, and also Mr. Midnight is there, locked up in a cage again, and different than before. He can only communicate in meows and cannot understand her anymore. Maybe he is from another reality, but that doesn't matter as long as he is alive. The second Dr. Deeren wakes up, Grace arrives, and with her, Dr. Oswald Harrison, the founder of the Oswald Asylum. Now, an explanation is long overdue, and he immediately starts doing that. He confesses everything without any hint of denial or doubt. Dr. Oswald is the psychologist who focused his work on experimenting on twins. Lucia and Grace Dagenhart were one of the first experimentation subjects, and Grace was loyal to Oswald ever since. He also experimented on Clara and Mia, souped them together, and threw their corpses into the well. He knows about the 5 realities and realized every step of their plan, letting Remmer manipulate Fran and make her kill her parents, bringing Fran into the Oswald Asylum and declare her dead for the public so they could experiment on her. For the reason why Oswald made Remmer kill Lucia and Martin? Lucia, Fran's mother, began to have a problem with the doctor's research when she found out that Fran was going to be targeted for experimenting too. So Oswald reached out to Remmer, since he and Leon also researched the 5 realities, and this is how it came to everything Fran went through. Her family tragedy, her symptoms and her mental state were just the victim of a mad scientist and Fran's aunt, who chose to stay with Dr. Oswald. There is also a secret photo of Lucia and Grace as childs and also Clara and Mia as babies, held by a nurse. Dr. Leon Castillo is also on the picture right next to Oswald. This proves pretty much everything what both Dr. Deeren and Dr. Oswald said. And now, Fran is getting in their way, and Mr. Midnight too. So the situation slowly escalates. Grace takes the cage and drops the cat into the abyss, making Fran lose her mind and choking her aunt. Until Dr. Oswald shoots Fran Bow in the body. She lies there now, motionless. And Dr. Oswald is showing his face even more, telling Grace to get the girl to experiment on her while she is still warm, to extract the brain, and to keep her since he's been waiting for this moment for years. Dr. Deeren also walks over and sees Fran laying on the ground, devastated. But at the very moment everything seems lost, Itward arrives. He notices Fran's state and situation in an instant, pushes both Dr. Oswald and Grace into the abyss like they deserve, and summons Palontras as the last hope to help Fran. Everything right before Dr. Deeren's eyes, who got told by Clara, Mia, and Fran that these people are real. Itward explains who he is, but quickly gets back to Fran, who needs to be cured immediately. Luckily, Palontras can cure her and brings her back to life. Mr. Midnight, who was also saved from the fall by Palontras, jumps to Fran the moment she wakes up. So, everything will be fine. Fran will survive. She has her cat back, and Itward finally fulfilled his task. He protected Fran until the very end. Dr. Deeren, still having to process all this, is getting controlled by Mother Mabuka, so they have to leave. The therapist will be brought back to his world, thinking that all of this was just a dream. He helped Fran the whole time, gave his best to protect her, and deserves to be in a situation where nothing of this happened to him. As for Fran Bow and Mr. Midnight, they leave the 5th reality, with every question answered and hopefully going back to Ithersta, fulfilling her wish too to live a normal and peaceful life. And that settles the journey of Fran Bow Dagenhart. What a journey. Fran is getting her happy end after having one of the most traumatizing experiences I've ever heard of. Some people interpret many sections of the game differently, but in my opinion, the ending is pretty clear. She is going to Ithersta, especially after she expressed the wish and also doesn't have anything left in the third reality. Her parents died, Mr. Midnight also did, at least in Pandora, and Grace was a terrible person who was never to be trusted in the first place. So this is the only plausible and also the happiest ending this girl could get, and she deserves the world after everything she went through. She never lost her hope or her genuine personality, and she finally gets rewarded for it. But before we end this documentary, we have a few references to mention in the game, but Fran's journey is over and I genuinely hope and wish for her that she is living the peaceful life in Ithersta she deserved. The 5 references.
The first reference I want to mention is the most obvious one in my opinion. Clara and Mia are resembling the twins from the horror movie The Shining. The dress, the general looks, their attitude, everything fits. This is pretty easy, but I wanted to mention this anyways because it is one of my favorites. The next reference can be found in the start of chapter 5. When Fran goes to the wardrobe in her room after being released from the chains, we see a photo of Fran with her friend Alice, in a dress and with a grinning cat plushie. A beautiful Alice in Wonderland reference and the perfect transition to the next Alice.
Fran herself. Fran Bow's design looks like she's inspired by the real-life Alice Liddell, a British girl who was also the inspiration for the Alice in Wonderland book. But not only her look is inspired by Liddell, also her birthday. The real-life Alice Liddell died on November 16th, 1934.
Fran Bow was born on December 17th, 1934, so exactly 1 month and 1 day later. The next reference is also number related. Remember the mentioning of the age of adulthood of the Valocas in Leon Castillo's diary? Valocas are being adults after exactly 299,792,459 years. This number seems random, but is actually the speed of light in meters in second plus 1, which is not obvious in the slightest because the number is extremely big, but the perfect fit for the creatures of light. The last reference is pretty dark. If you haven't hated Dr. Oswald enough just yet, this fact is going to change that. Dr. Josef Mengele, a German physicist from the Schutzstaffel from the Second World War, was active in Auschwitz and known for grotesque and inhumane experiments on humans, also specialized on twins. Just like Dr. Oswald. This is the most disturbing one and had to be mentioned. This is too much of a match to categorize this as a theory in my opinion. Very interesting, but also very dark. I could go on and on, the game is packed with references, but these 5 are the ones I definitely wanted to mention. And now, we slowly get to the end. Epilogue.
As a little closing section, I want to talk about 3 theories I found. I can confidently approve 2 of them, but I have to debunk 1 big theory, so let's get to the 2 I mostly see the same way first. It is said that Mr. Midnight is a guardian of the 4th reality after his death. We know that he died at least in 1 reality. Death is the absence of love. Mr. Midnight, on the other hand, did never stop to love Fran Bow, and Fran Bow did never stop to love Mr. Midnight. This is also the reason why Mr. Midnight came back as a guardian of the 4th reality to protect Fran Bow, unaware of his own absence from the 3rd world. This one is a beautiful depiction of Mr. Midnight being there even after his death, and we know that the 4th reality is the realm of guardians. It fits perfectly, so I absolutely stick to this theory. Another theory or way of interpretation is the lobotomy topic. This one says that the whole game is about lobotomy. We also have more than one example. One of the children in the asylum, Robert Clark, is a victim of a failed lobotomy, and thus it is rumored that every single patient in this facility is or was getting a lobotomy at some point. Clara and Mia also have undergone lobotomy, as we can see in the picture of the 2 after being sewn together. Fran too allegedly went through a lobotomy. I can definitely see this one being true, even though I don't know at what time the lobotomy could have happened on Fran's side. Many people also say that the ride on the ship was just a ride with the bike where she had an accident and everything before was just her imagination. That would explain the broken bike when she wakes up from the survived crash of the Itward flying machine. I definitely see the part with the bike, so maybe the ride in the ship was her imagination, but one big thing in this theory is bugging me. Many theories, and I mean many theories, say that some parts or even Fran's whole adventure is nothing but the side effects of the duotine, hallucination, or imagination. The 5 realities, Itward, Palantras, the Kamalas and Valukas, and even Fran being not dead are questioned. For example, are the 5 realities real? You could say no, but how did Fran know about Clara and Mia and their exact situation then? The twins appeared in the well way before Dr. Deern or Itward told her about them. It is also rumored that the whole scenario with Clara and Mia and even Ithersta is not real and just Fran's mind while being in the asylum for the second time, after she fell into a well where she ended up being in a coma. Itward is also interpreted in many ways, but given the fact that Clara and Mia and Fran independently talked about Itward with Dr. Deern, has to prove that he has to be real in some way. But the biggest question is Fran Bow actually dead? She could have died in the sewers while escaping, when falling into the well, falling from the bridge and from the crash of the ship. There's a huge number of situations where Fran could have just not woken up anymore. But the fact that Dr. Deern himself saw her and told her the truth showed me that Fran is alive. In general, every single one of the theories and the rumors of things being just Fran's imagination is pretty much debunked for me at the end of the game, and the reason for this is the fact that Grace Dagenhart, Dr. Deern, and Dr. Oswald know about the things Fran talked about the 5 realities, about Itward and Palantras, who even appear in front of the 3, which is enough proof for me personally to make them not a hallucination or imagination. I have to add that unexpectedly, Clara and Mia played an immense role for bringing all these pieces together, which I did not realize until I did all of this research. They are one of, if not the most important characters besides Fran Bow herself. Of course, you could just say that everything from beginning to end or from the first accident to end was just imagination, but this would be too easy in my opinion. I think everything that happened is real, and I think these things are also intended to be real, and to confuse too, to make these exact theories exist, which is good. But my belief is that everything Fran Bow went through was real from beginning to end.